Hey, Premier League managers, you want to protect your players from the congested game schedule? Rotate your starting 11. It's not that hard. We're going to talk about that on Stoppage Time here at Pints and Punditry. So this is not a new topic or complaint among Premier League managers particular. It's a problem all across Europe, but the Premier League has it worse than ever. In fact, all of England has it worse than anyone else because they have two domestic cups, not just one, on top of European football and then, of course, their league schedule. And then, of course, on top of it, the World Cup congested everything this season, and so we have a very tight, compact window with a lot of games, and it's not good for players. There's no debating the fact that it is not healthy for players to play this many games in a short period of time. It's not good for their legs. It's going to cause more injuries. And we don't know exactly what the tipping point, X amount of games in Y amount of days, that starts to cause injuries. It's different for every player. But there's no debating the fact that this many games is not healthy. And there's lots of talk throughout world football of how to scale that back, none of which is ever going to happen because there's just too much money at stake. So what should managers do? Now, this came up this weekend because Marcus Rashford came off with an injury, and it's a leg injury, so you can figure it's because of fatigue and overuse. And Erik Ten Hag pops off to the media after the game, blaming basically the Premier League, I assume was his target, saying that there's too many games in a tight window. This was Manchester United's third game in a 6-day stretch. But here's the problem. Marcus Rashford started every one of those games and played the full 90 in the first two and was probably going to play the full 90 again had he not gotten hurt. That's not the Premier League's fault. Erik Ten Hag, that's your fault. Rotate your players. This is very simple. You have to rotate your players these days. We are no longer in the days of running the same 11 guys out there every game like it's Ted Lasso where they have no subs. That's not how it works anymore. You have to have 15, 20 guys you can use. And when you are a big club, Manchester United, you've got the money to do that. You should be loving the congested schedule because you get to use this to your advantage over smaller clubs who can barely afford to compete with you in the top 11 guys, let alone have enough depth to overcome injuries or rotate to keep them healthy. This is not tough. Erik Ten Hag should not have played Marcus Rashford in all three games. It's really that simple. Would you have known he was going to be injured? No. But the more you do this, the more you increase these chances. So this is just going to be a part of the game moving forward. They're not going to scale back. If anything, they're trying to add Super Leagues and add additional games. They're trying to make more Champions League games. The World Cup, talking about every 2 years. I hope they don't do that. It's too much. But the trend is not going to fewer games. It's going to more games. Managers are going to have to adjust. The best manager at this is Pep Guardiola. He never has the same starting 11. He rests guys at any chance he gets. He has the luxury of doing that because Manchester City has such a deep roster. So he can sit Kevin De Bruyne. He can sit Erling Haaland and put in Julian Alvarez instead. Their backups are Riyad Mahrez and other really talented players. Now, obviously, having a ton of money helps, but they're not the only club with a ton of money. Liverpool has been a big spender. They chose to spend a lot of money on Darwin Núñez instead of 2 or 3 guys for the same amount of money that could have helped them with depth. And they're a great example of what happens when you don't rotate your squad year after year. Jurgen Klopp has not been a big rotator of his starting 11, and it's catching up with guys like Mo Salah, who just look like they're getting old and slow very quickly. And that's not Salah's fault. He has been run into the ground, and Klopp has said as much. But part of that is on him for having the need to start him in every single game when it was him and Firmino and Sadio Mane. And so you have to rotate, if not for the short term, for the long term longevity of these players and being able to maintain depth and preparing for injury, because injuries are going to be inevitable, and the more games they play, the more it's going to happen, whether just from wear and tear or getting tackled or a collision or some sort of accident. The more you play, the more there's going to be injuries. So, the Premier League is a little bit to blame. The World Cup is much larger to blame. But this is under the control of the managers. Erik Ten Hag, rotate your players and stop whining. You don't want Marcus Rashford to get hurt. Don't play him 270 minutes plus over the course of 6 days, and it's much less likely to happen. So the onus really is on the managers to make the adjustments and to rotate their teams accordingly. Thanks as always for joining us on Stoppage Time at Pints and Punditry. This is Total FIFA Career Mode.